Hello guys, Termex here, and welcome back to another video. And today I just kind of want to talk about the reasoning behind why I have not been posting Wonderlands for the past 2.5 weeks now. And I guess this is a video more telling myself and just letting other people know what I truly think about Wonderlands at the moment. The last few weeks of hotfixes have been pretty I mean, they fixed some things, granted, and they've made some changes, but for the most part, it feels like they're not even focusing on things that players want. I mean, who really asked for you to change rings? Who really wanted you to buff Torque stickies? Like, all these things that were just not needed, but were changed anyway when they weren't even that big of an issue. Sure, some of the ring fixes were indeed fixes, but a lot of the things were just questionable. Like, why would you change this? Why would you buff the Torgue stickies and then buff the sword explosion so it's instantly the best gun in the game? If you knew anything, you know that gun's just going to be insanely broken now. Do you just want players to hop on and talk about the buff? Was that the goal with the hotfix? Or I just don't get it. When you have Torgue legendaries like the one corrosive pistol that shoots a fish, I forgot the name of it. That thing sucks. Nobody ever uses it. There's a bunch of other weapons in the game that just go unheard, and why aren't we buffing those? Why aren't we thinking about rebalancing for those sort of things instead of buffing the best type of weapon in the game for no reason? I'm getting the same vibe from Borderlands 3 where it's like, do you test your own hotfixes? Do you play Wonderlands? That's like buffing spell shots, spell weaving stacks just because for balance issues. But I don't think they're that blatant to it. But my biggest gripe with Wonderlands at the moment is it feels very old already. And I've never said that about any other Borderlands game up until now. Or Borderlands style game, because I know a lot of people like to have transparency between Wonderlands and the Borderlands series, even though they're basically the same thing. I get it, it's different, but it's also the same thing. And they should have at least learned from a few things, but judging by what they're doing, it seems like they're going in the complete opposite direction. Now, we knew with the DLC and the Season Pass overall being cheaper that we weren't going to get as much DLC as maybe Borderlands 3 or even Borderlands 2 for that matter. But we didn't expect that we were going to be getting 5-minute DLC either, and I think that's where the disconnect was that upset many players. Hell, if you go on Metacritic or any other website that rates a Coiled Captors DLC, there's a negative score across the board. There is not a single positive website where it says, oh yeah, Coiled Captors was a good DLC. All the user ratings are complete and utter ass. I wonder why. And then I go over on Twitter or on YouTube and I talk about how ass it really is and how you're kind of just scamming your players out of money. I mean, I never been one to say that, and some people might view me differently for saying so, but you're telling me you want somebody to pay $10 for a shark boss? A shark boss, and then you're gonna add a few water variant weapons. Sure, you give us a soaked elemental type, but for $10 you want me to kill a shark that evolves every week. And I did the final evolution. The final evolution was on Thursday for its final form. And that boss is still dirt easy and not even close to a raid boss like I predicted when the event first started. I was like, okay, I'll give Coiled Captors a chance. Maybe it turns into a shark raid boss, something like Terramorphous or even something like Wotan, but a shark boss. And I thought it would be pretty unique and cool. But now we're 4 weeks later and it's the same boss with more health and maybe a cool attack or two, and I find no interest in killing him over and over because all the loot from him drops in the Chaos Chamber, so what incentive do I have? The funny thing is, the past 2 weeks, I wouldn't even have known that Chums evolved, because the crazy thing is, on both of their weekly hotfix notes, they never even mention Chums evolving. They don't mention it on a Twitter post, they don't mention it on the official website, they don't mention it on the hotfix notes. Yet they put up a promo a week ago talking about dive into the Coiled Captors DLC, defeat Chums, big boss, and still mention nothing of the evolutions. And wasn't the whole point of the DLC to market the evolutions so players kept coming back? So why are you not marketing the evolutions to do the thing you sought out to do in the first place? That doesn't make much sense to me. And on top of that, on top of the changes that they're making, sure, I love hotfixes, they're actively updating the game, but why aren't you fixing things that are issues, things that players are constantly talking about? Clawbringer got like a, what, 4% buff in the last hotfix? Not bad, but it didn't really make any game-changing differences in the long run. Then we still have Spell Shot that just melts over the meta, Pixies doing unnecessary damage and one-tapping everything in the game. Every matchmaking game I've done in Wonderlands has been just people spamming Pixies. And it's not the community's fault whatsoever. It's just what Wonderlands gave us and made viable, and it's all that people really use. Spam Pixies with Graveborn Spell Shot, you're going to constantly get gun damage, you're going to constantly get Faithful Thralls. You don't even have to play the game. You're just shooting one bullet and clicking the reload button, and you could meld any raid boss in the game with no really min-max build necessary. And Wonderlands just feels stale for me right now. A month into Borderlands 3, granted Borderlands 3 didn't have a great launch whatsoever. I never felt this bored a month into Borderlands 3. I could have at least tried another Vault Hunter, done another playthrough, reset my playthrough and redid the missions, explored those side missions. But Wonderlands, you can't even reset your playthrough to do that. You don't have to go through the unnecessary grinding up of a new character because you could just multi-class a second character. So you kind of remove that aspect of it, ruining the longevity. And I know a lot of people do enjoy that you could just switch to any multi-class, but you got to think, it does reduce the grind of Wonderlands indirectly, just due to the fact that you could swap to, let's say the new 7th class comes out in a month, you can just swap to that class and have it max level, basically, you know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to get across there. But so many things in Wonderland just feel so close to being perfect, but they're just not. Chaos Chamber is fun, and it was fun for like the first month. And now I have no urge to play. Hell, I haven't launched Wonderlands in 2 weeks. 2 weeks, can you believe that? A game that came out less than a month ago, I haven't launched in 2 weeks. I can't even think of the last game I've done that with. Maybe No Man's Sky? I think I played No Man's Sky for like 2 weeks, and then I just never touched it again. Fallout 76 was probably another one of them, but that game turned out great. But that's unbelievable to me that I would rather sit here and play modded Borderlands 2, playing the things that community modders put time and dedication into, to improve on this game that is almost 10 years old, mind you, and still fun as hell. Do you think people are going to be playing Wonderlands in its current state in 10 years? Even for a nostalgia trip for the younger audience, do you really think they're going to go back to Wonderlands and be like, man, that Chaos Chamber was fun? No. Chaos Chamber is a great endgame activity, but I don't understand why it's the only endgame activity. Did Gearbox just assume that we were going to have Chaos Chamber forever and ever and be happy with it and not feel repetitive? A few extra tile sets will never keep players happy. Now, before people get it mixed up, it's not the style of content that aggravates me. It's the diversity of content. Chaos Chamber, if Chaos Chamber wasn't the only thing that we could do, it wouldn't be a big issue. I wouldn't be making this video right now and I'd be on Wonderlands making more content. But the character builds that are just the same old every time, Cursed Wit Shield Break, Spell Shot with Spell Weaving, Reload spamming just to get your guaranteed damage, getting your rings when you're above 50% health because you're always going to be above 50% health. It's the same build over and over. And all the build diversity in Wonderlands is just swap out a shield or a class mod, and then it's a different build, and then use the gun for that shield or class mod. It's not like you're having crazy different builds. For example, on Borderlands 3, you had Fleck with his URAD Gamma Burst build that had insane radiation damage, but it traded off health because you didn't have health gate anymore. Or you could be completely different and be tanky as hell with Rack Attack, and I forgot the name of the shield, it's been so long, but it's a shield that gives you the 5-second immunity upon action skill start. You could just use that and become a tank, constantly trigger action skill starts, and completely different playstyle, completely different setup, completely different guns and gear needed. You're not just swapping a class mod and swapping out the gun you're using, and I love that about Borderlands 3 and its build diversity. People always like to shit on Borderlands 3 for its diversity, but it had plenty in my opinion. I made so many different flak builds, and eventually, yes, it did get repetitive 2 years later when the Revolter existed, and it was just best in slot for a lot of builds, and that's where the meta kind of fell off and became more condensed with things like that, and, you know, Groundbreaker was crazy with melee damage and the whole 9 yards. But it took a whopping 2 years for even me, someone that only played Flak in that game. I didn't even touch the other characters really for a year and a half. And I was able to have fun with that game and not feel like it was repetitive whatsoever. If I got bored, go finish some side missions. I got even more bored, go get all the echo logs. There was no raid bosses granted, but there was repeatable slaughter shafts. I could have done that indefinitely. Proving Grounds are great. The Maliwan Takedown was like the best piece of content ever. I don't think Wonderland's intended on players to grind 12 hours a day or grind 4 or 5 hours a day. Because if they did, I mean, it's weird. It's like they send mixed messages. They make content that's not intended for you to sink hundreds of hours into, but then they also add RNG that wants you to sink hundreds of hours into it, which makes no sense. It's like it's trying to identify itself as, yes, grind for the rarest loot, but don't put too much time into this game because there's not very much to do. A lot of mixed messages are coming with Wonderlands, and I think you understand what I mean. Now, I am by no means a game developer. I am just a dude that enjoys games, and I enjoy grinding within most games, and I think Wonderlands has great potential here. The tier system with chaotic, volatiles, and all that seems fun, but it already seems flooded, because if I'm at Chaos 35, I put in a bunch of hours to get to Chaos 35. So if I do all that, I could still get a shitty ascended, sorry. I could get a shitty non-volatile, non-chaotic. I could get a normal basic legendary at Chaos 35, and so could anybody else that's level 40 with no chaos level. They should just eliminate normal legendaries from the loot pool if you're at the max chaos. I feel like that should be a give me. Just for the simple fact that nobody at the highest chaos that wants to push for the endgame difficulty is going to use a basic legendary with no chaotic, volatile, or primordial anoint. I mean, roll on it. No one's going to use that. And I believe you're just cluttering the loot pool and making the game more and more RNG on top of RNG. Sure, it's not going to be the solve all problems solution, but it will make things easier, and I think that is a great first step in my opinion, just completely removing basic legendaries when the player is at the highest chaos tier. And one last thing I do want to say before I let you guys go for the day. Overall, I do feel like Wonderlands is something great. I do believe it's one of the best Borderlands games in the series, but post-launch wise, I still can't make a decision on that yet because I've yet to see where this game's gone. Maybe in a year, I'll be looking back at this video laughing because Gearbox had something cooked up in store for us, or I'll be laughing at the fact that I thought it was going to improve. Either way, I am hopeful for this game, and I do not want any negativity to prey on its downfall. I don't want people to think I hate Wonderlands and you guys should never download their DLCs and refund now. I'm not trying to tell you guys all that. I'm just simply coming here to say that Wonderlands is in a shitty spot, and some may agree to disagree. If we give it time in our feedback, then yes, I do believe with the community's help, maybe we could have our voices heard, but overall, I am still going to be doing Wonderlands stuff eventually. I love Borderlands. I might post some other Borderlands videos to keep you guys occupied. I do apologize for the slight hiatus. I was waiting for content. I was waiting for something cool to happen, and it just didn't this past month. But, yeah, guys, that's honestly really it. If you guys have any thoughts about your own opinions on Wonderlands, please tell me in the comments. I do like listening and reading all of your guys' ideas when it comes to the game. Even when it comes to my own opinions, I like talking about maybe if my opinion is shit or maybe if something I said was just kind of mixed match. But hey, if you guys did enjoy today's video, it does mean a lot if you hit the like button down below. It spreads my videos more out to the Wonderlands and the Borderlands community. Make sure you guys subscribe so you never miss out on another video from me. But you guys have a terrific day, and I'll see you guys later.